Chapter 58. Shoko finds out. Geto remained on the bed, sitting with his shoulders slumped, eyes closed. Gojo had been lost in thought. He had to take care of Geto, even against his will. Gojo couldn't erase the terrible things he'd done to him, but he didn't have to let Geto hurt himself on top of it. Gojo pulled himself together, wiped his eyes, and got off the floor. He stood in front of Geto, dominant again. Suguru, his voice was low. Geto tried to keep his eyes open, but he couldn't see out of his right eye, and he shut them both. Gojo reached out and clasped a hand on Geto's shoulder. I think you've punished yourself enough. Now you're punishing me, too. Geto struggled to open his eyes. Why does this have to be about you? Gojo's fingers tensed around Geto's shoulder. My fist is written all over your face. How do you think that makes me feel? Gojo started to get emotional again and took a moment to calm down. Geto stayed silent. Gojo let go of his shoulder. Let me call Shoko. Geto bowed his head. Call her if you think I'm worth saving. You are, even at your worst, especially at your worst. Gojo texted Shoko and they waited in tense silence until she knocked on the door 15 minutes later. She walked into the room, white coat swishing with every stride. You're lucky there was no one in the clinic or... She stopped speaking when she saw Geto's beat-up face. You're both unbelievable. You let him walk around broken like that and you never thought to come to me sooner? Shoko approached Geto. He didn't greet her. I tried, but he wouldn't, Gojo started to explain. Shoko snapped her head to glare at Gojo. Don't put this all on him. You're supposed to be watching his back. You should have dragged him to me the second this happened. It's not his fault. I didn't want to be fixed, Geto spoke up. And you, Geto, you've always had a death wish, Shoko confronted him. Hey, Gojo said sternly. Shoko put her hand up to stop him from interrupting. Geto, how many times have you come to me with old injuries that should have been taken care of sooner? You're always letting yourself suffer. Do you even want me to treat you right now? Of course he does, Gojo stepped in. I want him to ask me himself. If he's set on wasting away, I'm just enabling his behavior. Shoko crossed her arms and waited for Geto's response. Suguru, Gojo prodded. Geto remained silent. Suguru, please, don't make this about guilt or self-punishment or whatever. Just ask her. Ask her for me. Why does it always come back to you? Geto asked. Because I can't watch you do this. If something happens to you, I won't come back from it. So if you're not going to do it for yourself, then do it for me. Geto let out a painful sigh. Fine, heal me, he told Shoko. Shoko unfolded her arms. I know you don't mean it, but Gojo's right. Losing you is something neither of us wants. Lie down. Geto spread himself out on the bed, eyes closed. Gojo was nearby, trying to stay out of Shoko's way, but close enough in case Geto needed him. Shoko started the exam from the top of Geto's head. Her hands glowed intensely when they hovered over Geto's right cheek. She scolded Gojo. This is from a sparring match? He has a fractured cheekbone. It's centimeters away from his orbital socket. Gojo was speechless. Shoko turned back to Geto. This is why you can't see out of that eye. This is what happens when the bone shifts and presses on the nerves. One wrong move, one delay in treatment, you could have lost your vision. She placed her glowing hands gently onto Geto's face. He flinched at her touch. It took a while for her reverse curse technique to mend the bone, nerves, blood vessels, and connective tissues. Gojo was fascinated by the way Geto's mottled purple skin started to disappear under Shoko's fingers. Geto was able to see out of his right eye again after a few minutes. Shoko healed the cut on Geto's mouth and fixed his swollen lips. She continued her exam, holding her hands above Geto's neck, chest, and stomach. Geez, when's the last time you ate, Geto? Don't let that ulcer come back, Shoko warned. She moved lower down Geto's body and noticed something as her hands traveled over Geto's pelvic area. Oh, she thought. Oh. Her cursed energy detected torn tissue, raggedly healing itself. It was an injury that shouldn't have been ignored. This was an intimate one. Geto would never have sought treatment for something like this, but he should have. She felt like she was intruding on a very private aspect of Gojo and Geto's relationship, but she still had to fulfill her duty as a doctor. She looked at Geto, but he avoided her gaze. He forgot that she would examine his whole body, and now she knew. He felt shame. Shoko held her hands closer, almost touching his pelvis. This wasn't a training injury, was it? She waited for Geto to respond, but he couldn't look at her. I didn't want you to notice, he said quietly. Gojo placed a hand on Geto's shoulder. Too late for that. She noticed, and I don't care. You don't have anything to be ashamed of, Suguru. Gojo turned to Shoko. Can you heal him? I will, but don't expect me to pretend I don't notice you two anymore. That part's over. Shoko pressed her hands to Geto's pelvis. He winced. Gojo was the only one who had ever touched him there. Gojo rubbed his shoulder comfortingly. Shoko's cursed energy faded as she pulled her hands back. The injury was sealed, leaving no trace. She looked up at the two of them. One was refusing to lift his eyes. The other one dared her to challenge him. Typical, she thought. Gojo's fighting for him, and Geto's trying to disappear into himself. She rolled her shoulders to loosen the muscles. She watched as Geto sat up in bed and Gojo went to him. Geto looked down and Gojo put his arm around him. Shoko prepared to leave. I'm not going to lecture you two. Just don't make me patch him up like this again. Take care of each other. She didn't wait for a reply. She closed the door quietly behind her when she left.